Good day, and thank you for having me today. I invite you to explore with me the path that is neither black nor white but gray, the path of diplomacy. Our world often tries to paint everything in extremes, right or wrong, light or dark, sacred or profane. Yet as pagan witches, druids, and spiritual seekers, we know that life itself is a spectrum of color. It's not easy being gray. Why? Because gray asks us to see both sides. Gray asks us to listen when we want to speak, to stand in the middle when the world tells us to choose sides. Gray is not indecision, gray is wisdom. It's a place where we can hold both truths, like the waxing and waning of the moon. Today we will talk about diplomacy, how to help build harmony in a pagan community at large and our own groups. We will look at what diplomacy means for us as modern pagans, how to navigate conflict and build bridges, how to practice diplomacy as both a magical art and a leadership skill, why being gray can be a sacred calling. The gray path, what diplomacy really is. Diplomacy is often misunderstood. To some it looks like hesitation, compromise, or avoidance of conflict. But in truth, real diplomacy is one of the most courageous acts a leader or a community member can take. It requires standing in the space where the tension is the greatest, refusing to give in to pull of one side over the other, and to work to create a bridge where the others only see a wall. Diplomacy is in the pagan context. In our pagan communities, diplomacy means more than polite conversation. It is a sacred skill that protects the bonds of the circle. In this context, diplomacy is finding common ground among diverse traditions. Paganism is a tapestry of many paths. Diplomats search for shared threads, reverence for nature, respect for the divine, and the value of personal spiritual experience. Balancing personal truth with respect of others. You can hold your truth firmly without needing others to agree with you. True diplomacy allows you to speak authentically while honoring that other beliefs are equally sacred to them. Building connections instead of walls. When a disagreement threatens to divide, the diplomat looks for the opening where connection can grow. Shared ritual, cooperative projects, or even just moments of mutual listening. The sacred middle ground, the gray path, is not about being colorless, it's about walking the sacred middle ground, where the wisdom of all colors can be seen. It's like standing between fire and water. Gray path honors both, holding them in balance, so that their combined gifts can nourish life instead of consuming it. Why the gray path matters? In a world that rewards the loudest voice or the quickest retort, the gray path calls us to do something deeper, to be keepers of the balance. We become the steady stone in the river, shaping the flow without force simply by holding our place. The gray path is not neutrality born of disinterest, it's the active sacred work of tending the middle space, so that all can find a place at the fire. Why diplomacy matters in the pagan community. Paganism is not a single stream. It is joining of many waters flowing from different sources, carrying different currents, and meeting in a shared spiritual ocean. There's no central authority to dictate doctrine or practice. Instead, we are a mosaic of tapestry of woven countless threads, Wiccan, Druidic, Hellenic, Kemetic, Hellenistic, shamanistic, and many, many more. Each path holds color and texture to the whole. This diversity is one of our greatest strengths. It means we are adaptive, creative, and deeply rooted in the individual seeker's experience. But like any beautiful weaving, the tighter the threads are drawn together, the more potential there are for tension. How can conflict arise? Even with shared intentions, differences can cause friction. Different views on Sabbaths. Some groups may celebrate Beltane with fertility rites and bonfires, while others emphasize the turning of the agricultural year or personal spiritual renewal. The meaning and timing of Sabbaths can vary between traditions, leading to debate or even disagreement over the right way to celebrate. Reconstructionist versus eclectic paths. Reconstructionists seek to recreate ancient practices as authentically as possible, while eclectics blend multiple influences into a personal spiritual path. Each approach has its merits, but differences in methodology can create tension if not handled with understanding. Egos and misunderstanding. Even the most spiritually minded communities are made of humans. And humans have egos. Miscommunication, personal conflicts, or perceived slights can strain relationships. Without careful diplomacy, small disagreements can grow into lasting divides. The role of the gray diplomat in such an environment being gray is not about being indecisive or avoiding hard truths. It's about balancing diverse perspectives with fairness and compassion. They don't force sameness. A gray leader does not try to make everyone like or act alike. They recognize the diversity of the practice. It's not a threat of unity, but a source of strength. They create space for all voices, this meaning fostering opening dialogue, ensuring no one dominates the conversation, and making sure even the quiet or distant voices are heard. They weave peace without silencing individuals. The gray diplomat magic is subtle, like the weaver's hand on the loom, being together threads of many colors without cutting any strands short. Why is this vital? Without diplomacy, diversity can fracture into division. With diplomacy, that same diversity can become a living, evolving community where each member feels valued and understood. In this way, gray leadership is not just a social skill, it's a form of spiritual stewardship, a sacred act of weaving harmony from differences. Listening as a sacred art, the first rule of diplomacy, listen. In our magical work, we are taught to listen deeply, listening to the voice of the land beneath our feet, the whispering of the winds through the trees, the quiet counsel of our ancestors in the ritual space. This same skill must extend into our human relationships. For if we can hear the heartbeat of the earth, surely we can hear the heartbeat of the person before us. In the gray path, listening is not a passive act, it is active, intentional, and sacred. To truly listen, to give a gift, the gift of your full presence. Why listening matters in diplomacy. Diplomacy often fails when people focus on what they will say next instead of hearing what is actually being said. True listening creates understanding, and understanding opens the door to trust. Without trust, diplomacy is only empty words. Active listening, the core skills of full attention. Active listening, core skills, full attention. Put away distractions. Turn your body towards the speaker. Let them see that you're the center of your focus. This is a model equivalent of sitting around the fire. There's nothing more important in that moment than the shared conversation. Understanding. Hear not only the words, but the meaning beneath them. What's the emotion? What is the hope, fear, need hiding in the space between their sentences? Responding. A simple, I hear you is something neither other times, repeating back what they've heard, so that understand that you're saying. Can you clarify, validate, remembering? Listening is not a temporary act. It has memory. When you recall someone's concerns or ideas later, you show them their words matter. Look for nonverbal cues, eye contact without staring, an open posture, nodding at appropriate times. These are unspoken ways of saying, I'm with you. Without holding judgment, the gray listener does not prepare rebuttals while others speak. They resist the urge to fix things too quickly or display what they don't agree with. Listening as a ritual act. Approach each conversation as if you're a ritual. The circle is formed when you give your full attention. The invocation happens when you invite the other person to share their offering. To share. The offering is your patience, empathy, and presence. The closing comes when they leave the conversation feeling heard, even if not fully agree. Listening in this way is an act of magic. It transforms conflict into dialogue, and dialogue into connection. In the gray path, listening is not simply a tool, it's a spell for peace. Cast one word at a time. Using ritual as diplomacy, healing beyond words. In times of conflict, words can become tangled, misunderstood, misheard, or spoken in haste. Yet ritual speaks as a language older than speech. It moves through symbols, gestures, and shared sacred acts that bypass the walls as we sometimes build with language. In ritual space, we step out of the ordinary world into the realm of the sacred, where our differences can be honored and our unity remembered. Opening events with a blessing from all traditions at a festival, representative for each tradition. Offer a short blessing, spoken, sung, or silence for the success of the harmony of the gathering. Each blessing is received with gratitude, showing that no one's spiritual language is excluded. Peaceful feasting before dialogue can share food. Sharing food is one of the oldest forms of human bonding. A peace meal before a hard discussion creates warmth and connection, softening the emotional ground. Breaking bread together reminds us that we are not adversaries, we're a community, calling the elements as a neutral witness in a meeting where tension runs high. Being by invoking the elements, ancestors, or spirits of the land, we witness the connected conversation. By calling our forces greater than ourselves, we acknowledge that we are accountable not only to each other, but the sacred order we all serve. Our ritual works in diplomacy. It changes the space. Ritual creates a liminal space, neither fully mundane nor entirely other world, where new possibilities can emerge. It engages the heart, not just the mind. Symbols, scents, gestures, and sounds bypass intellectual defenses and speaks directly to the soul. It equalizes participants in the ritual. All are participants in the sacred act. No one holds the upper hand by virtue of debate, skill, or authority. It shifts the energy where words may escalate. Ritual acts can show the pace, ground the emotions, and bring people into alignment. We're all children of the same earth. Our bodies share her elements. Our spirits are nourished by her cycles. We believe all paths lead to the divine. Names differ, forms differ, but the source is infinite and unbound. We're all of this path to life together. No one matters where we begin or how we travel. Our journeys are intertwined. Being great does not mean being passive or agreeable to all costs. True diplomacy often requires the courage to say no, with conviction and compassion. It is a sacred act to know our limits and communicate with them. Integrity, especially when emotions are high or community pressure demands silence. In a group setting, boundaries are not barriers, they are sacred circles of protection. They define where your energy ends and others begin. No is not a rejection of others, it's an affirmation of your values and well-being. It is an act of self-respect and often a vital step in protecting the health of the community. Examples of diplomatic boundaries. A coven leader may decline to share oath-bound material with a guest while still offering respectful and enriching public ritual. This protects sacred vows while welcoming new seekers. Pagan festival organizers may ask disruptive attendees to leave, not in anger, but with firm kindness, because their behavior violated the event's code of conduct. This maintains a safe and sacred space for all. A high priestess might set a time limit on post-ritual discussion to preserve her own energy and ensure balance in her life. She honors herself and her community by doing so. Saying no also means giving the others the freedom to find their own way. A skilled diplomat does not control or coerce. They provide room for authentic choice and growth. Just like sacred circles hold space for magic to happen, boundaries create a space for priests to flourish. Diplomatic no is rooted in love. It's not a wall, it's a doorway with a lock. It invites entry with permission and mutual respect. When we use it wisely, it protects what is sacred without shutting down connection. True diplomacy respects differences without hostility. It knows peace without boundaries. It's not peace if it's surrender. And surrender in such a case may sacrifice truth, health, spiritual integrity. Let your boundaries be your blessings, spoken with clarity, held with strength, and honoring with grace. Diplomacy between tradition. Paganism is a vast forest of many different trees. Wiccans, Druids, heathens, so many more. Each tradition has its own symbols, ritual, and sacred stories. This diversity is one of our greatest strengths, but it also calls for skillful, intentional diplomacy when we meet across traditional lines. Diplomacy between tradition means recognizing sacred values beneath the varied forms of practice. We often share deep roots, reverence for the cycles of nature, respect for the divine in many forms, belief in sacredness of the earth, and committed to spiritual growth, acknowledge other common threads, creates a foundation for mutual respect. Celebrating differences need not to be the source of division. They can be opportunities to learn to exchange ideas and experience new perspectives. Druid reverence for the sacred oak, heathens honoring of the ancestors, or chromatic devote to Mot, all unique expressions of spiritual truth that can inspire and not threaten each other. Choosing conversation over conversion. The goal is not to make others walk your path, but to understand theirs and share your conversation builds bridges. Conversion attempts to burn them. Unity without uniformity in the pagan community. Unity does not mean uniformity. We do not need to adapt to others' same belief, names, deity, or sacred texts to stand together united. It means standing side by side, mutual respect, defending each other's rights to follow different ways, and finding common course with the wider world. It challenges our freedom practice. Grave diplomacy between traditions. Attend rituals, festivals outside your own tradition, with openness and curiosity. Ask respectful questions, and listen without trying to correct others' beliefs. Offer cooperative causes that all pagans, environmental stewardship, religious freedom, community aid, create intertraditional councils, roundtables to share perspectives and resolve misunderstandings. When practiced well, diplomacy between traditions strengthens the entire pagan community. It turns the formers from a scattered or separate trees to a living ecosystem, each rooted in its own soil, yet connected through the shared earth beneath. Leadership and great diplomacy in our pagan community. Leadership is not about command or control. It's about service, stewardship, and careful tending of our relationships. A truly effective leader understands that authority is granted by trust and consent of people, not imposed from above. This is the heart of great diplomacy, the ability to navigate complexity and honor many perspectives and maintain harmony without sacrificing integrity, leading by consent and respect. Consent is sacred, just as the circle is cast with the agreement of all who enter. Leadership in pagan setting functions best when people is willing to be part of the work. People are far more likely to follow when they feel heard, valued, and respected. Respect as foundation. Respect is shown not only in words but in actions, honoring people's time, listening actively, acknowledging their contributions, and showing gratitude. Leader who respects others builds a community that respects them in return. Mutual exchange is a healthy pagan leadership. Authority flows from both ways. The leader gives vision, structure, and support, while the community offers ideas, feedback, and energy. Resolving conflict through counsel and ritual counsel before confrontation when disagreements arise. Call a council, whether formal or informal. Encourage each person to speak their truth while others listen without interruption. This is not a political tool. It's a sacred act of witnessing each other's humanity. Ritual as a bridge in moments of division. A sharp ritual can establish connection. This might involve simply lighting a single candle and passing it around so each person speaks their intentions for their harmony. A more formal rite, cleansing a misunderstanding and resetting the group's spiritual center. Seeking the middle path. The great diplomat does not see conflict as something to win, but as something to resolve for the good of the whole. They look for the space between extremes, where understanding and compromise can grow. Great leaders balance. The great art of diplomacy is knowing when to step forward and when to step back. When to lead in times of uncertainty, when people need clear direction, when a ritual or decision